Our lead story tonight on the news. The Supreme Court was unsparing in its rare reprimand during the hearing in the Patanjali misleading ads case. Now, rejecting Ramdev's apology, the Supreme Court said that it's not even worth the piece of paper it's written on. The top court said it has no intention of being generous in the case and that Patanjali and the authorities should be ready to face consequences. In fact, the court came down heavily on the central and state governments as well, saying that the Uttarakhand government was hand in glove in playing with the lives of thousands who were misled by Patanjali in its advertisement of fake medicines during the pandemic. In perhaps its strictest warning in the case, the Supreme Court said it will rip the authorities apart. So truly unprecedented there. Our colleague Ashish Bhargav, who tracks the Supreme Court for us, is joining us live from the NDTV newsroom. So Ashish, what next now in the case?
See, next date is 16th of April and it's a very important day because Supreme Court today said that they are not accepting Ramdev and Balkishan's apology, unconditional and unqualified apology. So, as April 16 is the next date, they have to appear again. Supreme Court will decide whether to go further on contempt against these two, or if there is something else, because from Ramdev and Balkishan, Mukul Rohatgi appeared for them and assured the court that they want to give public apology also and if court wants they are ready to give public apology also to the court. Supreme Court has to decide whether to take this case further in contempt proceeding, start the trial of contempt against these two, or what will happen to them, or pardon them on the affidavit filed. But Supreme Court today categorically rejected their affidavits. It means the trouble of these two, Ramdev and Balkishan, is not finished now. They have to face again the court questioning, and it's a very important question because Supreme Court today also says these apologies, unconditional and unqualified apologies, are just a piece of paper for them. So 16 April is a very important date for them.
Ashish Bhargav there, thanks very much for joining us. With that, the Supreme Court truly unsparing, and rightfully so, because it's about the lives of thousands of people who would have been misled during the pandemic. But moving now to political news, well, less than 10 days to go for the first phase of the big general elections, and the clear focus is Tamil Nadu, that votes in a single phase on the 19th. Now, in his last-ditch efforts, the Prime Minister is on a whirlwind tour of the state, and today in Vellore and Coimbatore, the Prime Minister tore into the DMK and the Congress, calling them anti-Tamil. This as he raked up the Kachativu issue yet again. But the big question, will his direct attack at Chief Minister Stalin yield political dividends? And can the BJP dent the Dravidian fort? My colleague Sam Daniel reports.
The Kachativu Island making a comeback on the Tamil Nadu election trail. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi, campaigning in Vellore and Coimbatore, accused the DMK and Congress of ceding the uninhabited 285-acre island to Sri Lanka and keeping the people of Tamil Nadu in the dark over the transfer.
बीते वर्षों में उस आइलैंड के पास जाने पर तमिलनाडु के हजारों मछुआरे गिरफ्तार हुए हैं। एनडीए सरकार ऐसे मछुआरों को निरंतर रिहा कराकर वापस ला रही है। डीएमके कांग्रेस सिर्फ मछुआरों के ही नहीं बल्कि देश के भी गुनहगार है।
वहां के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या?
वो तो ये कह रहे हैं कि जो मछुआरों को द्वीप को देकर के मछुआरों को अरेस्ट करा करके फिर छुड़ाने का कांग्रेस पार्टी सिंपैथी गेन करने का काम कर रही है।
ये बेकार बातें करते हैं मोदी जी, बिना सिर पैर की।
The Prime Minister also accused the DMK of indulging in family politics, corruption and an anti-Tamil culture. The Dravidian party, he claimed, has the copyright to indulge in corruption in Tamil Nadu. Over the years, nearly 500 Indian fishermen have been shot dead by the Lankan Navy for trespassing into Lankan waters. the larger picture, with no major ally in Tamil Nadu, Modi is reaching out to the fishing community who could improve prospects for the BJP in at least 5 seats. Calling the ceding of Kachativu a historical blunder by the Congress in 1974, the ruling DMK questions the BJP on what has it done over the last 10 years to retrieve Kachativu. The Prime Minister's big focus on Tamil Nadu comes amid a tough battle for the BJP in the southern state. The BJP does not have any big ally in Tamil Nadu. After the AIADMK snap twice, the party is locked in 3-way battles on many seats with the DMK and the AIADMK. In the 2019 Lok Sabha polls, the BJP got 3.6% votes and won no seats in Tamil Nadu. 2 years later, in the state election, the BJP got 2.6% votes and 4 assembly seats. This election, 2 younger leaders, State President K. Annamalai and Union Minister of State L. Murugan, have been promoted by the BJP in the hope for better electoral gains. The big question, despite the PM's push, will the BJP make gains? With Alok Pandey in Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find TV.
And moving now to our special exclusive with one of the DMK's star campaigners in Tamil Nadu, Kanimozhi, who is of course a candidate from the crucial Thoothukudi seat. Well, she also talks about the Prime Minister's dynastic politics jibe at the DMK. Take a look.
What's the defining theme about Thoothukudi 2024? I'm sure there are local issues, but there also seems to be a larger theme as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, which is, can the BJP change the old Dravidian narrative of DMK versus AIADMK? There seems to be a threat to that AIADMK seesaw.
You really think so? I don't think so, because I still think this election is between the DMK and the AIADMK. I don't think... I think people are under the wrong impression because BJP has got a few seats in the assembly election, and I think it's only because they were in alliance with the AIADMK, and I don't think the BJP would be able to win even one seat in this election.
You're saying they're not going to win even one seat, but the Prime Minister has been on a major push in the state, and his target has been family rule of the DMK. He's been taking on the dynasty line and corruption allegations against the DMK. Dynasty is a weak link for the DMK, isn't it?
See, you can, if you come from a political family, and if you want to get into politics, I don't deny the fact that the first step is much more easier than anybody else who wants to get into politics. But if you want to stay in politics, if you want to be around, then people have to accept you for who you are, the work you do, and what you believe in. So that doesn't come easy.
So, well, Tamil Nadu is going to be a game changer, certainly. But moving now to the other all-important state, Maharashtra. It's a race against time for the BJP alliance there. The tug of war over seats in the Mahayuti continues, even as the rival alliance sealed its seat-sharing pact just yesterday. Now, 9 crucial seats are proving to be a big challenge for the NDA in Maharashtra, a state that sends second largest and has the second largest share in the Lok Sabha. My colleague Radhika reports.
Even as the opposition alliance in Maharashtra has announced its final seat-sharing formula, the ruling Mahayuti alliance is still in disarray over seat allocation. Of the 13 remaining seats yet to be announced, there is dispute over 9. The BJP aims for a alliance share of 29 to 30 seats out of the total 48, leaving the Shiv Sena and NCP with fewer seats. So far, the BJP has officially announced 24 seats, Shiv Sena 8 and NCP 3. Among the disputed seats, in Aurangabad, Palghar, Thane, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg, Mumbai South, Mumbai Northwest and Mumbai North Central, Sena and BJP are at odds. In Nasik, it's Sena and NCP in dispute, while BJP and NCP are clashing in Satara. Mahayuti leaders assure that such issues will be resolved in due course.
देखिए, हर एक गठबंधन की थोड़ी बहुत चुनौतियां होती है, फिर भी गठबंधन होते हैं, जीतते भी हैं, तो इसलिए ये बहुत अटकलें लगाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। हमारी पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में कई तरह से हमारे जो भी साथी होते हैं उनको एडजस्ट करने के भी माध्यम होते हैं।
Sources have revealed that Eknath Shinde faces pressure to concede maximum seats to the BJP, including traditional Sena strongholds, sparking discontent among Sena leaders and workers. Shinde has already had to drop 3 incumbent MPs and faces further pressure to give up more. Party insiders say that Shinde has urged disgruntled candidates to remain patient and has assured to rehabilitate those who've been dropped out of nomination. Now the bigger question is, will this ongoing dispute lead to Sena feeling shortchanged, leading to further dissatisfaction within the party, or will a mutually agreed upon resolution be reached? With video journalist Arun Pednekar, this is Radhika Ramaswamy for NDTV.
And moving now from the second largest state to the most populous, well, in Uttar Pradesh, after the Congress and the CPI, the Samajwadi Party has released its manifesto. Now, the key India bloc partner in the state has promised a caste census by 2025 as expected. The party has also announced the restoration of the old pension scheme, which the Congress interestingly ignored in the manifesto. Akhilesh Yadav has also vowed universal MSP for farmers. Listen.
समाजवादी पार्टी की कोशिश रही कि समय समय पे जिन लोगों ने सुझाव दिए हैं उन सभी सुझावों को इस विजन डॉक्यूमेंट में शामिल कर लिया जाए। समाजवादी पार्टी इस बात को मानती है कि किसानों को एमएसपी दिया जाए, बिना एमएसपी के उनकी खुशहाली के रास्ते पे लाना संभव नहीं है। इसके लिए कानूनी गारंटी के रूप में सभी किसानों को एमएसपी उपलब्ध कराने का काम समाजवादी सरकार या समाजवादी लोग जब कभी सरकार में होंगे उसको लेकर के करेंगे।
And now to our special hot seat series, and the constituency in focus is Jorhat. Well, all eyes on the prestigious seat as the Congress deputy leader in the Lok Sabha, Gaurav Gogoi, is contesting against sitting BJP MP Tapan Gogoi. It's a prestige battle for both the Gogois as Gaurav Gogoi faces a challenge of maintaining his winning streak from a new seat where the BJP has a strong presence. Ratndeep Chaudhary and Sanjay Chakrabarti.
It's a battle between two Gogois in Jorhat, Gaurav and Tapan. Once a Congress bastion, now a BJP stronghold since 2014. The constituency is a prestige battle for both sides. The Ahom factor is also key to the contest. 41 years old Gaurav Gogoi starts his day early, reaching out to voters of Jorhat. Gaurav has ancestral roots in Jorhat, and his father, late Tarun Gogoi, Assam's 3-time chief minister, had represented Jorhat in Lok Sabha twice in the 70s. Before he returned to the state politics, Gaurav says his fight for Jorhat is beyond his family legacy.
I have not worked in Jorhat for the last 10 years. I was in a neighboring district far from Jorhat, with the response that we are seeing from all sections of society and the way the BJP have also responded. It seems as if even the BJP were not prepared for me to contest from this seat. And this campaign is not about an individual. This campaign is not about a specific political party. This campaign is about the people. I am fighting for the right of tea garden workers who don't get a sufficient living wage, and we are fighting for the idea of democracy, because people in Assam, especially in Jorhat, they have opposed the Citizenship Amendment Act, but they don't have the space to exercise their right to protest.
Gogoi is trying to reach out to the far-flung areas and to the villages and tea gardens, holding more than a dozen meetings every day, trying to meet the voters. The challenge for him is that not only this is a new constituency, but several Congress leaders from this area have left the Congress and switched over to the BJP. Cut to the campaign on the other side, BJP has fielded the sitting MP Tapan Gogoi, a former student leader in Assam and a former Assam minister. Tapan faces a challenge of another kind. He is campaigning in a wheelchair after he fractured his leg, but Tapan is sure he will overcome this temporary handicap.
19 अप्रैल आने दीजिए, 19 अप्रैल तो चुनाव होगा, सब लोगों ने बीजेपी को वोट देगा और 4 जून आने दीजिए, तो उस दिन हम बात करेंगे। तो हम लोग जो बोला है अभी, हम जो बोला है उसी सही होगा। डेली हम 10, 12, 13 ऐसे मीटिंग, हम चुनाव का मीटिंग हम लोग कर रहा हूँ। अभी भी मेरा मीटिंग है, इसलिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तो हम जीतेंगे 100%।
BJP Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma has thrown his weight behind Tapan. Several of his top ministers and the party's state leadership have been stationed there. The question is, will BJP retain Jorhat?
We are looking forward a bright future. So we will go with the government who gave us these facilities and who provided us with all the sources for our development. Like during this government rule, we got this employment opportunities.
The Ahom community and the tea garden workers make up the majority of the voters in Jorhat. Both Congress's Gaurav Gogoi and BJP's Tapan Gogoi are from the Ahom community. Seen as a youth icon, Gaurav is busy crisscrossing this vast constituency to win over the youth. As the sitting MP, Tapan is on home turf, while Gaurav Gogoi has a family legacy to bank. Tapan is also backed by the might of the BJP juggernaut in Assam under Himanta Biswa Sharma. To dub Jorhat a clash of the titans may be an exaggeration, but it promises to be a keenly fought contest. With camera person Sanjay Chakravarti in Jorhat, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
It's an interesting battle to watch out for there. But moving now to the all-important Bengal. Well, double whammy for the TMC days ahead of the polls, with many fronts now open in the Didi versus the centre row. Well, the Calcutta High Court has ordered a court-monitored CBI investigation into the Sandesh Khali case. And on the other hand, well, there is a fresh front now between, in the whole Mamta versus NIA controversy, as the High Court pulled up the Bengal police for filing an FIR against the anti-terror agency. Saurabh Gupta has this report.
So the order has come up today, and the Honourable Court has handed over the investigation to the CBI, because only an independent agency could investigate in the matter, as the accusations and allegations were against the police authorities.
The Calcutta High Court has handed over all cases filed in Sandesh Khali related to land grab, harassment of women and extortion to the CBI. Earlier, the court had pulled up the state government, saying even if one of the affidavits filed were true, the administration and the ruling dispensation would have to take 100% moral responsibility. The Trinamool Congress responded to the development, saying in many cases CBI probes haven't yielded results, and it is the Trinamool Congress that has returned money to the people.
What is CBI doing about Suvendu Adhikari? So this CBI and central agencies, they became frontal organizations of Bharatiya Janata Party, and Honorable Court, most unfortunate, Court is patronizing this kind of politics.
Earlier in the day, Union Home Minister Amit Shah addressed a rally in West Bengal's Balurghat and hit out at Mamata Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress over its stance on central agencies. The NIA, which had to face an angry mob in Bhupati Nagar, also got a reprieve from the Calcutta High Court.
ममता दीदी एनआईए पर केस रजिस्टर कर बम ब्लास्ट करने वालों को बचाना चाहती है। ममता दीदी शर्म करो। आप बम ब्लास्ट के आरोपियों को बचाना चाहती हो। आप चिंता मत करिए बंगाल वालों, हाई कोर्ट ने एनआईए को जांच दी है, सबको उल्टा लटका कर सीधा कर दिया जाएगा। आप चिंता मत करिए।
Can this be at all stated by a minister, home minister of any nation? What Mr. Amit Shah ji has said, it is just making it clear that they just do not want to maintain the process of law. They will take law in their own hands और सबको उल्टा लटका के they will make them straight.
The functioning of central agencies has become a major political issue in this election, as these central agencies find themselves caught in the crosshairs during political street fights over their functioning. Even as the Trinamool Congress labels them as frontal organizations of the BJP, while the BJP defends them, saying they're only doing their jobs. This as courts continue to hand over probes to these agencies. With camera person G.D. Shankar in Kolkata, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And moving now to the big political showdown in the national capital. No relief for Arvind Kejriwal from the Supreme Court. In fact, setback after setback for the Delhi Chief Minister. After the High Court blow, remember, the Aam Aadmi Party moved the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court refused urgent hearing. No special bench was formed for Arvind Kejriwal, which essentially means that Arvind Kejriwal will remain in Tihar jail for the next 4 days because the Supreme Court is closed till Monday. Meanwhile, in the national capital, dramatic scenes unfolded as the BJP upped the ante against the Chief Minister, demanding his resignation. There were water cannons used as well as the protesters. This in the heart of the national capital. Meanwhile, in a fresh setback to Arvind Kejriwal, one of his closest aides and top ministers resigned in the national capital. Rajkumar Anand, who was a social welfare minister and also the SC/ST minister, resigned. He not just resigned from the party, but of course stepped down from his post of the cabinet minister as well. In fact, he hit out at Arvind Kejriwal just minutes after resigning, saying that Aam Aadmi Party is now corrupt and it's impossible to work within the party. So a clear fallout of Arvind Kejriwal's arrest. The Aam Aadmi Party said that, well, he is under ED pressure and this is the BJP's bid to topple the Delhi government.
मैं राजकुमार आनंद, मैं दिल्ली सरकार में मंत्री हूं, मेरे पास 7 पोर्टफोलियो हैं, लेकिन आज मैं बहुत व्यथित हूं, इसलिए आप लोगों को मैं अपना दुख साझा करने आया हूं। मेरे लिए मंत्री पद पर रहकर इस सरकार में काम करना असहज हो गया है। मैं अब इस पार्टी, इस सरकार और अपने मंत्री पद से इस्तीफा दे रहा हूं, क्योंकि मैं इन भ्रष्ट आचरणों में अपना नाम नहीं जुड़वाना चाहता।
यही है राजकुमार आनंद, जिनके यहाँ 23 घंटे तक ईडी का छापा पड़ा था। पूरी की पूरी भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऊपर से लेकर नीचे तक चिल्ला चिल्ला कर कह रही थी राजकुमार आनंद भ्रष्ट है। सारा केंद्रीय नेतृत्व, इनके बड़े बड़े नेता, नड्डा जी हो, अनुराग ठाकुर हो, पीयूष गोयल हो, सब ने बयान दिया राजकुमार आनंद भ्रष्ट है। देखना आपको यह है बीजेपी का चाल चरित्र और चेहरा आज से लेकर कल तक, या हो सकता है जल्दी ही आपको दिखाई पड़ जाए वो व्यक्ति जिसके लिए खुद भाजपाई नड्डा से लेके अमित शाह से लेके मोदी तक सारे लोग कह रहे थे कि ये भ्रष्ट है, भ्रष्ट है। कल उसको माला पहनाते हुए शामिल करते हैं कि नहीं, ये पूरी दुनिया देख लेगी।